It is season preview time, and the guys are back on Talkin Badgers. Dillon with the magnificently timed can crack, by the way. Not scripted, not planned, but perfect for the return of Talkin Badgers After Dark. For BadgerNotes.com, I am Kedrick Stumbris, joined by our intrepid entrepreneur, Dillon Graff, Ryan Eilers, and Jason Long. Guys, it's been too long. I'm really glad to see you, and I'm sure plenty of our listeners are tired of hearing my voice, so I'm glad we have other people who like to talk.
I'm sure they're happy to have someone with a higher IQ than myself behind the mic.
Yeah, good to know Jason's here.
Yeah. Dillon, I see the varsity gold nail. Fantastic.
We're drinking for a cause in this house. My wife's drinking the seltzers now. You know, we're doing our part.
I went with a little something more exotic. I got the passion fruit rum from Puerto Rico with me, so that's
As you know, I'm not well traveled. I'm usually within a 3-county radius, so I haven't been exposed to that kind of culture.
I'm disappointed.
Baby monitors went that far.
I was going to go grab something before this started, and then I was like, you know what? Ked's a sophisticated guy now. I've been watching all his great podcasts. I'm going to stick with water, and now I feel like dipshit.
Well, and it shows. I bumped into Jay Long at Quick Trip this week, and I thought it was a fucking supermodel holding the door for me.
Well, right back at you.
You should have heard what I told him before we started.
Stop.
Yeah, that one is good before we hit the record. But yes, this is not going to be your typical Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday through Friday show. This is going to be the 1 hour a week on the feed where we let it loose a little bit more. Jason, if that means you need to run and grab yourself a frosty beverage, we'll allow it. Or do whatever the latest skincare routine.
Slowly here.
But guys, before we started the show, you all, what's the word I'm looking for? You all indulged my curiosity and sent me your game-by-game predictions for what you think is going to happen this season for the Wisconsin Badgers football team, because we are a painstakingly 9 more days away from the opening kickoff on a college football Thursday, the day for college football, as we all know.
Armageddon.
Inside Camp Randall Stadium against the Miami of Ohio Redhawks. And so we gotta get through at least one more week of talking season before we get to 1 week of doing season. Are you guys all just as like sick of, and I know we're about to do it for 40-ish minutes, but are you all just about as sick of like having to talk about the schedule and all this crap as I am? Because I'm like, as much as it may or may not be a fun college football season, I'm ready for it to start. That way we can stop talking about the same crap we've been talking about for 6 months.
Yes.
Yeah, the talking points start to get a little dry because ultimately you can't really rewrite a narrative until you start to see it with your own eyes. And in an era like this where it's become a little bit harder to project from year to year because of the turnover, maybe it means even less than it used to.
The offseason's so long, too. It's so easy to flip your opinion one way or the other, where it's like, because I think I was like, oh, this schedule sucks. It's brutal. And then now it's, I know Ryan said it before, like you go through it and you're like, well, maybe, you never know. And then another day passes and I change my mind again. So,
yeah, I think part of that is based on when you kind of take a volume check of where you're at as far as your schedule. It's like, yeah, when you first see it, you're like, wow, that's tough. That's a lot of brand names. And you start digging into it and it's like, yeah, some of these teams haven't even named starters. And some of the starters they have don't even have a resume. The last time they played football was in high school. So it's like, could they be good? Probably. Will they be bad? Probably not, but you never know.
Yeah. Well, Jay, to your point, year over year, this college football offseason is shorter than it's ever been.
Fair.
With the national title game, right? But you're not wrong in terms of the Badgers, where it's the longest offseason since 1997. Like, it needs to be over. So let's get to talking a little bit of ball. Seems that we all think Wisconsin's going to beat Miami of Ohio and Middle Tennessee. But and we'll walk through this, and I'll do a little bit of a big reveal about where we agree and disagree as we get towards the end here. Well, we all think Miami of Ohio and Middle Tennessee are going to be handled by this team. Do we think we're going to run into the same thing as the last 2 years?
Yes.
Where things look gross for 30 plus minutes.
Yes.
I think we learn more as a fan base from those 2 games than we will at Alabama. But
I think that's totally fair. I mean, I say that a little bit tongue in cheek. I do expect them to, have their fair share of troubles. I mean, it's a first year offensive coordinator. You have 40 new faces on the roster. There's only so much I think that you can accomplish during an install period, and when you're going against the same people for all of the entirety of camp, like, I do think that there's an element of having to work into things, and that there's gonna need to be a little bit of a grace period. But they don't really have enough games for there to be that grace period. And so I'm with you, Jay, in that, like, I think that we're gonna learn a lot about the roster in the first couple of games, and just that, like, can they go out and, even if it's not necessarily pretty, can they impose their will? Like, does it feel different in that way? But I do expect them to be a little slow out of the gates. I mean, I think that the offense has shown enough. There's enough reasons to be optimistic, and you could point to a ton of them. But this is the first time that they're going to be kind of running this out there, and I don't expect it to look perfect right away.
I think the biggest concern I would have with it is, I try to put on my thinking cap, and I went into, like, the actual programs themselves, and I'll acknowledge that Middle Tennessee State has a new head coach than what they did in 2023 when they went to Coral Gables and beat number 8 Miami on the road. So, I mean, there's still going to be some holdovers from that team that have upset a top 10 team on the road, and Wisconsin, unfortunately, is not a top 10 team. So there's got to be some susceptibility there. And I also looked at Miami of Ohio, and I didn't check their roster because, frankly, I don't really care that much about the MAC. But they are returning their head coach and all their coordinators, and they've been to back-to-back MAC championship games. So they're not – I mean, we struggled a little bit with South Dakota in year 2 of an offense. I mean, they could pose a little bit of a speed bump. But like you said, if it's ugly early, it is what it is. But I also don't think these are as layups as you'd probably want them to be, as like if we had Indiana schedule.
Well, and two seasons ago, in the first game of the Luke Fickell era, this team struggled against a lower tier MAC opponent in Buffalo. And this Miami team, Ryan, as you mentioned a little bit, they're picked second in the conference, and by like a really slim margin. like it's I think the total counting on the vote points is Toledo is picked to win the league with 135 points, akin to like the coaches poll or the AP poll. And then Miami's right there, just 4 points lower at 131. Like, the consensus overall is this is a championship contending team out of the MAC. And it's, yes, it's the MAC. And talent trickles up in college football in a way that it never has before. But for this team, which has not covered itself in glory in the first 2 weeks of the year, the last 2 seasons, there's got to be just overall reasons to worry that you're going to see the same thing as you did the last couple of years against Western Michigan, against South Dakota, against Buffalo. Like, let it go on, when they just don't have room for error if you drop one of these 2 games. Like, not that that's what's happened the last 2 seasons, or not that I think that's what's going to happen, but just there's no room for error anywhere.
And I think it'll be really interesting to see, DeQuan Finn is somebody who did not necessarily find a lot of success at his last stop, but he was someone that Wisconsin took a very serious look at 2 years ago. And ultimately his asking price was almost double that of Tyler Van Dyke. And that's what, kind of forced them to go a different direction. Because that obviously involved a lot of projection, but definitely no slouch. Like, he was someone that a lot of Power 4 programs were looking at, and, didn't work out at stop in between, but he's somebody who is mobile and that has, I understand this is a very different looking defense and it's going to present very differently, but mobile quarterbacks have been an issue historically for Wisconsin. And so they have a legitimate talent, under center. And, I think that obviously makes a huge difference.
If you guys are trying to convince me into an 0-1 start, it's kind of working.
I'm not trying to.
I feel a lot worse now than I did 10 minutes ago about.
Well, we'll try to keep those good vibes going. But as Dillon kind of alluded to there, the backstory of DeQuan Finn, former quarterback with the Toledo Rockets, the preseason favorite in the MAC this year. He was a quarterback interest the same season as Tyler Van Dyke came to Wisconsin for the Badgers. He ends up enrolling at Baylor under former Wisconsin Badgers defensive coordinator, now Baylor Bears head coach Dave Aranda. And now Finn is back in the MAC with Miami. So that's an interesting little wrinkle here that I guess we will see. At the very least, you would think the staff should be familiar with what makes Finn tick and move. They should have seen plenty of film of him. So we'll go forward. Nobody is picking Wisconsin to beat Alabama. I don't know. We need to talk ourselves into anything interesting happening in this game, where I think there were a lot of excited Badger fans a season ago being just really leading into the hopium of this being a program in Wisconsin that is something similar to what we saw a handful of years ago when this game was first scheduled, but maybe not. Does anybody have anything interesting to say about what might go down in Tuscaloosa?
They're definitely going to play a road game in the SEC that week.
Fascinating. All right, that's all the silence I needed. Big thoughts about Billy Edwards and the return game against the Maryland Terrapins in Madison, the Big Ten opener.
Got to get it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about Maryland at all. But I just think that I'm excited to see what schematically how the Badgers and what personnel they use in the first 2 weeks that then can hopefully build into just not getting completely embarrassed against Alabama, and then you're in it. Once you're in the Big Ten, they're in it, and hopefully they have a lot of things figured out by then, and that they have some personnel shored up. And have a little momentum, and yeah, I mean, I think they should win that game.
Yeah, if that game were played today, Wisconsin would be a double-digit favorite in that game. Maryland opens the season against Florida Atlantic, Northern Illinois, and then FCS Towson. So this will be their first time on the road too. That team has lost a lot of talent of the small amount that was there, and I think this is a moment where if you don't know, like y'all mentioned earlier, I think it was Jason who said this, you're going to learn more from the first two games than you will against Alabama. I think I totally agree. I think there's a good chance by halftime of the game against Middle Tennessee, we know whether or not this team is going to make a bowl. If you don't know then, I think you know by the end of this game for sure. Ryan, do you disagree with that assessment?
No, I think you're spot on. Maryland still has players, though. I mean, I think if we look at blue chip talent, they're still going to be one of the ones that are on our schedule that has a decent amount of it. Being in the DMV area, they're going to get the local kids to want to stay there and play. I agree. I think, you're not going to take too much away from Bama. I would say I wouldn't use Maryland as the litmus test on what you think the team can be for the year, but I think your bowl eligibility and what you're going to kind of expect from there on out, I think that's a good assessment to say by Maryland you should probably know, because you're either going to be 3-1 or 2-2, and with a pretty decent crop ahead of you.
Yeah, I think that I would totally agree with that assessment. Like, if I would like to think that Wisconsin is capable of beating a team like Maryland by double digits, and I would say that I kind of hold that expectation. And if that's not what ultimately we're seeing, then some of the games that we'll get into kind of coming up here, it's really hard to walk into those with really any amount of confidence. I think that we need to see this team score the football, something we haven't seen a whole lot of the last couple of years. And defensively, I kind of go back and forth between saying I think that this team has a lot of options. I think they're going to be a really package specific defense that I think is going to play a lot of guys. And as far as frustrating as they were a year ago defensively, they're, it was far from the Wisconsin standard, but it's not like it was absolutely terrible. I think that they should be an improved defense. If they can score the football, on a team like Maryland, and have it not be particularly close, then I think that gives me a certain amount of confidence that they can compete with maybe that next wave of Big Ten teams that we're accustomed to being better than.
Jason, anything to add on?
I think that's super fair. I think how they play, like if they win, it's not even like that just winning. I think if they can win in like a dominant fashion that we haven't seen them do in the last few years, like they get back to those old roots, and it just looks like Wisconsin football. I think that's going to do a lot for the team's confidence level, and the team hasn't had any confidence in the last 2 years. So I do think that every time they win a Big Ten game or every time they even win a game, I think it's going to build confidence for that team that they're able to compete with, the Iowas, the Indianas, the Minnesotas, the teams that they historically should beat or have beat and haven't beat in the last few years.
Yeah. And Jay, I think that's kind of the point I was getting at when I said I think that this is going to be the barometer of telling me whether or not this is a team that can reach a bowl. It's not even so much as like, what do they show me? But it's like, this is a game you have to win. Just the math kind of necessitates it. And if you don't, I think this team, at least based on, and we're hearing a lot in this offseason, and I know Ryan might have some thoughts about this, hearing a lot this offseason, especially the last couple of weeks, about how different the culture is and how people are bought in, and certain players may have quit down the stretch a season ago. If you lose to Maryland and then you look at what's coming next in the following 4 weeks, quit watch might happen really early in Madison. Not to disparage anybody, not that I think any particular player is going to quit, but just you worry about the psyche and knowing just how long of a slog it is.
I think I'm worried about that even if they beat Maryland. Like honestly, not to like tip my hat on where I went with the predictions, but that's very possible to still happen even if they beat Maryland. So if they lose to Maryland, I think you're 100% right that like, where is another win come if they lose to Maryland in the next 4 weeks after that?
Where I feel like a bit of a hypocrite here is that I can admit that I think I do buy into the culture being in a better place right now. I think that they actually have an idea of who they want to be that's a little bit more clear than it has been. However, if you listen to Luke Fickell at Big Ten Media Day each of the last 3 years, I managed to go back. The things that stood out to him were the exact same 3 talking points each year. And so for that reason, I'm going to paint me skeptical. I think that I actually do believe they might be onto something here. I do think they were a lot more intentional in the portal. They're 3 years into this thing. It's a lot of, at this point, it's Luke Fickell's team. Call it what you want. I don't care if there are Christ guys that are impact players at this point. Like, they're still here. They've chosen to be Fickell guys. So I do believe that like their culture can be in a better place, but ultimately it's still 40 new faces. You don't know how they together respond to adversity yet. And last year they said the same thing about they loved the experience. They loved the leadership. Well, it was noticeably absent during that 5-game skid to end the year. So we'll see. And I think, like you guys mentioned, there's going to be some opportunities with their backs against the wall to prove us wrong and to show us that culture truly is in a good spot and that they can pick themselves back up and come out and fight the next week if things don't go their way.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm going to be painted skeptical also, because kind of to your point when you said they know who they want to be. Well, there's a big difference of knowing who you want to be and knowing who you are, because I want to be a fitness model like Jay, but I'm not. So it doesn't matter what you want sometimes. Sometimes you kind of just are what you are. And like to your point about the same talking points, I am so tired of hearing about the culture. You either have culture or you don't. Like,
Ryan, you got a mountain to climb here, brother.
I could care less about the mountain. We're tripping on molehills. So to the point earlier about like kind of quit watch, it seems like last year, like it wasn't even necessarily quit watch because of the record. It was quit watch on playtime, quit watch on what personnel packages. It's hard to have people buy in. Like, and I don't want to single Yak out, but like Yak was the leading rusher yards per carry in every single quarter. So miss me with the whole like, oh, it was only in garbage time. No, first quarter, second quarter, and third quarter, out of all the running backs, he had the highest yards per carry in every quarter. So the idea of we have a better culture now. Well, are you going to play? Is it going to be a meritocracy? Are you going to play the best guys? Or are you going to just play the guys so they don't enter the portal halfway through the season? So I think when you talk about that culture being better, you got to stop talking about it and you got to be about it. You brought in 112 players since Fickell took the job. Be better. Be about it. Stop talking about the culture. Stop talking about the schedule. Win games and be together or get the hell out. Like I'm so tired of the culture talk.
Ryan, do you think that culture, and this is, I haven't really given a lot of thought to this myself, but do you think that culture can become slightly more sustainable in this era with the implementation of contracts? And obviously we don't know exactly what these contract templates that the Big Ten put out, but having some of these things in place, do you think that maybe helps alleviate that? Because there allegedly are a number of players who have signed multi-year deals, with Wisconsin. And if that's the case, and a coach theoretically doesn't have to look over his shoulder and think that individual may enter the portal, does that open up the door to, playing who they feel is the best guy without having to look over their shoulder? Because I think there's been an element of, we paid this guy this much money and we need to get something out of it. And you have that in pro sports and that's where we're trending. But do you think that it could potentially improve with some form of stability that way?
Yeah, I mean, that stability is going to be through like forced loyalty. I mean, at the end of the day, if the guy doesn't want to be there, like you can, what do we call it in the NFL? Holding in. Like if you don't like your deal or you don't want it, like, oh, I got a back issue. How many guys have we seen pop hammies? Like, oh, I got a sore hammy. I'll be out for weeks. So, I mean, will it alleviate a lot of the portal entry? Yes, because they physically won't be able to go anywhere. So, but inherently that is going to be better. But for me, it's all about the players that you're recruiting. They can say that they love them, they love this, they love that. They're team guys. Together everyone achieves more. Whatever acronym you want to throw at them, at the end of the day, you have to stop talking about it and be about it. Like you said, they hit all of the same points. It's year 3. Like I get that you have new faces, and inherently you have to teach that culture and teach guys the way things are done, but also sometimes you just got to lead by your actions. And like when you're saying like, oh, this is what we do here, why don't you just show them? Like, oh, we know our expectations is competing for championships. Well, why don't you start doing that? Well, maybe don't give up 40 to Nebraska and Fatty Mahomes. Like maybe start there. Like I don't want to hear that a culture issue. All the guys are yours. If the culture is bad, the fish rots from the head down. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, for the record, I think I'm more with Ryan on this in a slightly more PC way, I guess. But I think the culture complaints and the talk about guys maybe quitting or not going their hardest, my guess is that's a little bit of revisionist history. I think it's searching for answers to problems after the fact. And yeah, but anyway. All right, so then we get into that October. None of us picked the Wisconsin Badgers football team to win a game in the month of October.
Oh, man.
Brutal.
Nice.
If we're nothing but we're consistent.
That is at Michigan, home against Iowa, home against Ohio State, who Wisconsin has not beaten in any capacity since the year of our Lord 2010. It is now 2025. And at Oregon. Happy birthday to me on October 25th. The Badgers going to Oregon, according to all of us, to lose and to end October on a 4-game losing streak, exit the month, then enter the month at 3-1 and leave the month at 3-5. Dillon, what will your attitude be if Wisconsin leaves the month of October without a win?
I'll say unchanged, because ultimately, I hate to kind of keep coming back to this part, but I think, again, that year-to-year projection of a team entering a season is becoming increasingly difficult for all the reasons we've already laid out. And so the one constant that you do have to lean on is, well, what do I know of this head coach? What do I know of the people he's surrounded himself with and what they get out of somebody? And If you'd asked me 3 years ago about that history, that looks very different for Luke Fickell. And I still want to be clear. I think there's still a path forward for him being, a successful head coach at Wisconsin. But right now, and even historically, he's got a 28% win percentage against ranked opponents in his career. I don't think it changes a lot for me. And that's because he hasn't really shown an ability to close. If you want to take a talking point from last year, it was all about what do we want to be playing our best ball at the end of the season. We want to be, dominating in the fourth quarter of games. And well, guess where they were outscored by 85 points, the fourth quarter of games. And so it's for reasons like that, the things that they want to be, kind of like what Ryan said, you can want to be these things, but what are you? And this is a very different group. And so, they do probably deserve more of a benefit of the doubt than I'm giving them. And I think for me, maybe it's less about the team and more so about the leadership that I have questions about. And so I don't think it changes much for me because I don't expect them to win these games. I do expect that they'll play competitive football. I mean, we've seen them, play hard against Penn State, play hard against Oregon, give Ohio State a run 2 years ago. They can rise to the challenge. And perhaps with some improved depth and semi-competent quarterback play. And I think that Billy Edwards represents more than that. Maybe some of those outcomes change and maybe they could change this year. But if they exit the 0-4 and, if they play respectable enough football, it doesn't change much for me.
Yeah, I would agree with you exactly, for the exact reasons you said, but I told you guys already too, that I could be convinced that they could win a game in the month of October just because the unknowns of the other programs as well. Like Michigan.
Jason specifically is referring to Michigan.
Yeah. Michigan comes in with a true freshman quarterback, which yes, he is probably one of the highest paid NIL freshmen to exist to date. But there's a lot of unknown there from their program. That being at the Big House doesn't make me feel great about it, but I could still be convinced. And then even Iowa, they play a great brand of football, a brand of football that Wisconsin used to play that we would like. But that being a home game at Camp Randall and them bringing in a new quarterback who's up a division, you don't know what they're going to have out of that either. So I could be convinced, but I'm with you, Dillon. If they lose all 4 games, and I think they'll be competitive in at least 2 of those games, it's not going to change much for me.
I want to see them compete against Iowa. I want to see them beat Iowa. I think above all else.
Yeah, if they don't get just completely ran off the field, it's going to be a physical game of football. Obviously, football is physical in general, but if they can get back, that's going to be one of the litmus tests that we talk about.
Yeah. Can we all agree? Well, and maybe Ryan disagrees, but can we all agree that if there's one game they win in October, it is Iowa? Does anybody disagree with that? If you're picking one of those at Michigan, home against Ohio State, at Oregon, home against Iowa, is anybody picking anybody other than Iowa as the most likely win?
I would say
I think without seeing it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, what I found interesting is so if you're going by Bill Connolly of ESPN's FBS or SP Plus projections, if that game were played today, Iowa is favored, but by less than a point. Which means ultimately, and we'll get to this a little bit later, there's a few of these games. There are 3 games on the schedule where Wisconsin is an underdog by less than 1 point, 1 full point. The numbers say Wisconsin should win, or it's not overwhelmingly likely that Wisconsin loses all of those games. But I don't know if I think Ryan, it was you a season ago who was saying you don't care about Alabama nearly as much as you care about Iowa in terms of figuring out what this team is. Is that feeling still the same for you?
Yes, that's 1,000,000% accurate, and that's why I shook my head when Jay used one of my favorite words called litmus. So when he said it's the litmus test, to me, at week 6 is going to determine what the following 6 weeks are going to be. Inherently, you're probably going to enter that week 3-2 if you lose to Michigan. Maybe if you're 4-1, you have different outlooks.
We still don't know what Bryce Underwood looks like. He could come out and look like, Alex Orgy or whatever buddy's name was, who couldn't throw the football a forward pass, and then maybe you do have a chance. So I think without seeing any of those guys on the schedule, I mean, Alabama, we haven't seen Simpson in Alabama. Well, that's what I'm saying. We haven't seen those quarterbacks. Like if they come out and they're just locking it up, you don't know what's going to happen. So Iowa to me is the litmus test. It always has been the litmus test. I kind of feel like I'm in one of those weird movies that it's like it's Iowa. It's always Iowa. If you play well, and and I'm not even going to say if they lose, I don't do moral victories. I don't do participation trophies. But in this instance, if they lost by 3, my thought on the rest of the season, even if we came out 0-4, like we lost to Ohio State and Oregon as expected, even though they don't have proven quarterbacks either. If they lose to Iowa close, I could talk myself into seeing hey, maybe they could make a run in the month of November. But if they come out and it's another Iowa performance like last year, or even the one before when it was 15-6 and you just can't score touchdowns, then I would agree with the boys. My thoughts on the rest of the season are going to be like Dillon and Jay's. They're going to be unchanged. So Iowa, as always, will be my litmus test.
This is the 6th year of college football for Iowa's starting quarterback, Mark Gronowski. Ryan, do I need to put a quarter in you?
Well, I mean, at least he's. I'm not trying to burn any bridges for anybody.
The other years are at the FCS level, so I don't know if that changes your mind. Like Nizier Forgreen, the other years at other levels don't count.
Yeah, I usually side with the side of Law, and Law said he can't play. So the fact that Nizier is still out there, running around with the boys as with the first team offense, when you have guys that haven't taken collegiate snaps in Big Ten football. Who cares about their development? You know what I mean? But good thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to burn any bridges for people that actually have to show up to practice. I think it's idiotic. Should he be able to play? Probably. The NCAA is just a clusterfuck. Who even knows what they're doing anymore? I always like to refer to them as the non-caring a-holes of America. So at the end of the day, none of their decisions make any sense. But at the end of the day, the courts ruled that he's ineligible, and the fact that we're rolling Nizier out there for first team reps, I don't know what we're doing. Fickell's probably forgot more football than I've ever known. I don't see the purpose. So yes, there was your quarter's worth of complaining in a polite way that I didn't destroy people.
At this point, is the NCAA anything more than the fall guy for the presidents of really just the SEC and the Big Ten? Because ultimately they hold all the power. If they wanted to secede from the union, if you will, they could. There are no rules in place. And ultimately they, with the TV deals that are they're getting cut blank checks with the TV deals that are, ultimately being funneled to these universities and programs. Like the NCAA, at least in my opinion, or the way I'm viewing it currently, is that they have no authority, but essentially these conferences and the presidents can just utilize them to be the bad guy. And so what power do they really have other than just kind of diverting really anything that they want to, anything they don't want to take ownership of, they can just pass off and the NCAA steps in. Otherwise they don't really, at this point, seem to hold much value.
Do they do anything other than vacate wins? Like, would they vacate losses? Because if that's the case, we should just roll Nizier out there week 1 and just let the boys eat. And if, we end up with whatever record we do, as long as they vacate the wins and the losses, then we're not sitting here looking at, that 28% still rolls over to that 28% in ranked games rolls over to 2026 when I'm told the schedule is so much easier. So, hey, let's roll them out there week 1. What can the NCAA do anyway?
Yeah, I think we could all go on a tirade about what we think about the NCAA and which programs we think should just hang the banners anyway. But that's not exactly what the show is about today.
My fault.
No.
I'll take ownership of that.
I'm the one who won you. It's like I go to my parents' house and I rile the dog up. My fault.
Appreciate that. I'm glad to know I'm the family dog.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. So we get out of October and we all pick Wisconsin to beat Washington, which I found somewhat interesting. I mean that's a favorite.
I struggled with that one in particular.
Same here.
I wanted to take Washington.
Didn't think about it.
I wanted to take Washington, and I'll get into why I didn't later.
And so this is the section of the show that I like to refer to as Jason's Islands, which is that Wisconsin beats Indiana and Illinois, and the other three of us think that Wisconsin loses both of those games.
Don't let the boys get hot.
Get hot off of a win against the Washington Huskies?
You need something to be the catalyst, and I think that's going to be it. Based purely off vibes.
Fighting for the real UW.
I could be I could look real dumb at the end of the year, but I think that Washington to me is a sleeper team in the Big Ten to actually do a little something. I believe they've got a quarterback, and I don't know, that can take you a long way, and that's why I had a lot of pause there.
Everything that Dillon just said, I 100% agree with. I was right. I kept going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth because I'm like, this team, Jed Fish, he's a lot of things, but he wins games, dude.
Yeah, and I think ultimately one of the biggest reasons why I took Wisconsin over Washington in particular was that. And the irony in the statement is
road trip.
What I had sent Kedrick with my schedule is that I had Wisconsin winning 5 games. And then I messaged him immediately after and was like, well, I still think they make a bowl, but I could not figure out which game I was willing to give them for number 6.
Dillon was
APR, baby.
Predicting the APR win.
APR, baby.
And so I was like, well, to me, then I have to give Washington, even if I'm skeptical, because I'm like, because 4 seems like a real kick in the dick when they're not a 4-win team to me. This isn't a. To me, this is like an old school 8-4 roster, and with a new school conference and schedule and things like that. And so I did give Wisconsin the nod, but I do want it on the record that I think Washington could surprise some people and maybe make that one, maybe even tilt their way.
That's a long trip, though. They should play that game at 11 a.m., so it's 9 a.m. their time, and then Badgers will I don't know. They're going to win. They're going to win against Washington at home. And then Indiana's also got a new quarterback coming in. Like, they got a lot of moving parts. And I know that that quarterback had a little bit of success at Cal? Cool.
Easy.
Cool. Don't care.
Storied ACC program.
Yeah.
The same guy Big Head tried to get to Wisconsin and he said no to, but okay, continue.
That's fine. I'd be singing his praises if he was with Wisconsin, but he's not. So I don't care. Move on.
Opportunity.
Yeah. Indiana's got to have, they had a freak amount of success with a shit ton of transfers last year. Like, the odds of them doing that again, maybe they will, but maybe they won't. And I feel like, is this one of the games, Ked, that they're of less than 1 point underdog in?
No,
definitely not.
6.
A touchdown is still not that much in college football.
I hear what you're saying. Like, I could see Indiana being a game where Wisconsin could play with them, especially if they manage to kind of reach that point in the schedule, playing football where it feels like they're dictating the game plan that they want to play more than like there's a million reasons why it didn't look this way a year ago, but offensively, like they were, well, one, it was Longo's philosophy, but like they were taking what was available to them, and also they were a very one-dimensional team. Where if they're playing a way that like we know they want to play, and God forbid, hopefully our offensive line can manage to get healthy and stay healthy to reach that point. But if they can, like, there's no reason that they couldn't compete with an Indiana, because like you said, there's enough variables there where we probably know less about them than we think, but it's really hard to not give them the benefit of the doubt as a playoff team.
Again, I think with Indiana, it's tough.
I made a lot of my picks based on vibes and trying to be optimistic, but like for no good reason. If you grouped in that Indiana game with how you said, like if I had to pick one game that I thought they would win between Michigan, Iowa, or Indiana, I think it would be Indiana over either one of Iowa and Michigan. And I don't know why.
Yeah, probably from the trenches.
I could probably get there.
Yeah,
so
those three I can see.
3-0 there. Thanks.
I think that's a really interesting take, Jay, but one that I think is totally understandable, just given the other way you would assess that would say they'd be most likely to beat Iowa. But given the like two different ways Wisconsin has lost to Iowa in the 2 years of Luke Fickell, there's not a lot of confidence to be had there versus in Indiana, which has for so many years been a less than lovable loser, sans the fact that Wisconsin has lost to them 2 times in a row now, which fascinating.
Ryan, you were on hand for the one in Indiana, right?
Yeah, thanks for reminding me, boss. Yeah, that was the one where Vakos had the heat wrap on his back, and they wouldn't let him kick, and they lost 20-14 on a Tom Allen 3-9 season. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. Getting chirped by Indiana fans was probably a brand new hell I didn't think I'd need to be in.
That sounds like rock bottom.
Yeah, I would say if it wasn't
in 2023.
I mean, it was a rough. So I was just doing a little, brain teaser here. Exactly when we talk about Indiana, I think one of the things that we struggled with last year, and obviously we'll continue to work through November, but I'm like Dillon said, he's going on record saying Washington. I didn't have the heart to give him a loss there either. I couldn't do 5 straight. But I could see that one not going our way. I think the one with the Indiana is going to be tough because one of the things we struggled with, and I believe, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe last year we were the nation's worst in tackle for losses and sacks. Is that correct?
I think it is second to last in sacks, but dead last in the country in tackles for loss. Yes.
Has anybody taken the tape measure out?
They were underneath the Nathan Havoc rate, though, so they were ahead of 6 teams and just overall, just defensive pressure. So
that's cool. That's like different kinds of stool. You just had to figure out which one works best for you, I guess. I think my concern is they couldn't rush the passer, and Fernando Mendoza. I mean, Jay, you can say what you want. I try to be objective because I'm a big ball knower. The fact that he did what he did at Cal. I mean, I'm pretty sure without looking at numbers, I think he threw for 3,000 yards. Like, he can huck it. And he's got a 6-foot wide receiver, Omar Cooper Jr., who's probably going to the NFL, and a 6'2" Elijah Surratt, who probably could have went to the NFL this year and stayed for another year. So I'm just trying to figure out which of our 5'9" corners with no experience that didn't get reps on the first team is going to cover each one of those guys, and who's actually going to rush the passer.
I don't like it at all.
I'm just saying, if we're not going to get home to the quarterback and we're going to let 6'2" NFL receivers eat, I'm just which short stack has to cover these receivers. Is it going to be Emilio? Looks rocked up, but he's still only like 5'9".
Phrasing.
You look at Rico. Rico's 5'10". Latimer, he's small. Who's covering these dudes, man? If you're not getting home to the quarterback, 6 points seems nice. I might take the 6 now.
Do it. Be about it.
We have interestingly talked far more about Indiana than we have about Illinois, which is like the orphanage for long lost sons of Wisconsin football at this point. Yeah. Jim Leonard not there, defensive pass game coordinator with the Denver Broncos, right? But head coach Bert Bielema. There are 3 Wisconsin transfers on this roster, all like pass rusher types: James Thompson Jr., Kurt Neal, Leon Lowry.
Do we claim Leon?
I don't know.
I'm 50-50.
Yeah.
I'll ask his agent.
Yeah, let's get back to him on that.
Let's call Chris Wash and see what he's up to.
Is there a more well-known agent in this space than Chris Wash? Can't be.
I don't think I could name another except for basket, not football people, at least.
Drew Rosenhaus is the college agent. He was Abdul Carter's last year.
Yeah, but that's real.
Well, if you listen to some of the dealings with Drew Rosenhaus, they're kind of slimy too,
Fair
allegedly.
enough. I think it's very fascinating that the tides have turned so far for Illinois in the short tenure of Brett Bielema there, where they are the effective, like, dark horse fourth-ish team to make the Big Ten, to make the college football playoff out of the Big Ten. Anybody feel some type of way if I make the statement that Illinois is the new Wisconsin football in the Big Ten?
Sounds like I've been talking to Amir.
I think I'm there. I mean, I think it's part of what makes that.
Who's a running back coach?
Game.
Who's a running back coach? DG.
The running back coach, James White.
Oh, okay, he's a pretty good guy. You highlighted three defensive players. I didn't know if that's where we were going to stop. I think their defensive coordinator played here too, Aaron Henry,
for the Super Bowl MVP. By the way,
I look at an Illinois. I look at the way they've built that program, and yeah, it looks familiar. And I think that they've managed to, in this era, retain a lot of talent, which I think speaks to, that culture word that everyone likes to throw around. I think there's something to it. They know who they are. I think that they are doing more with less. I mean, a lot of phrases we used to get to throw around in the off season, and it feels like one that really matters. It's one where I would love to take Wisconsin over Illinois, and there's absolutely a path towards winning that game. Like, I think where my optimism is with this Wisconsin team in particular is just there are a lot of pieces that individually I can believe in, or that you could sell me on, or I see a path towards a positive outcome. But there's just so many what ifs, and I would venture to guess that most teams are having those same conversations right now, because in the past you could look at, this outside linebacker is graduating, and here comes Nick Herbig. And like you knew who was backfilling all of these spots. Like, okay, Leo Chanel was the third linebacker, and now this year he's starting, and we feel great about that because we already knew he was good. Where now that third linebacker is either true freshman Cooper Catalano or maybe Taryn Turner, and like we haven't seen them play yet. So it's hard. We have just as many what if questions to ask as anyone else, but Illinois has managed to bring back a lot of talent, and they're playing football in a way that is just consistent with who they are and who they want to be. And I have to give the nod to Illinois. I would love to beat them. And I think if we do beat them, that would speak to where we're at and where we could be headed. And I want to be super clear that obviously that's what I want. Like, I want to see us take off, fucking Lord Voldemort, who we'll get to in a little bit. He shall not be named. And in Iowa and in Illinois, these are teams that I want and expect to be able to beat, but I just can't give the benefit of the doubt yet. And Illinois is a team that I think Wisconsin is going to be wanting to replicate, which I can't believe I'm saying.
While we are on the topic of other coaches there, Aaron Henry, first team All Big Ten Wisconsin football alum, is also there. Defensive coordinator. So I find that.
How about that?
Interesting. Yeah, we are right now at the point, the Wisconsin football is now at the point where I think if you are a fan, you are probably saying you care about beating Illinois maybe this season about as much as you care about beating Iowa and Minnesota. I don't think that's outlandish to say.
Well, I think it's the reason for it, though, Ked. October 1st, 2022, Brett Bielema took Wisconsin's soul. Like, the program has been broke since then. Like, Chris got fired the next day. Jim Leonard got an interim try. It's been off the rails since then. Like, he's literally Wisconsin's El Kukui right now. He's the boogeyman. Like, until you can beat him and, like, get that, especially because the game's going to be at Camp Randall, like, Burt will die before he loses here. Like, he will do he will do anything. Like, he's not losing here. The way he left, the whole karma stuff. You said what?
We beat Illinois in our last matchup with them.
Yeah, but not in Not in Madison though. I'm saying like he took the soul of like when Illinois comes in here, I'm more nervous playing them this year than the Ohio State game. Because it's like Ohio State, hey, we played them close. You know, they had Marvin Harrison. If we didn't have Braden Locke, like we only lost by 14 versus Illinois. It's like this dude just he literally broke the program the last time he was on this field.
Want to give Coop his flowers. He absolutely called that game that we would not see Paul Chryst coach another game at Wisconsin.
That was the first day of my like unemployment post like my past career. Just a fascinating day of emotions. Yeah, that's the meme I sent to my father was epic handshake, me, Paul Chryst being fired. So that was a fantastic weekend for Wisconsin football alums or just Wisconsin University.
But would you guys disagree that they kind of broke the program at that day? Like, has there been enough like?
I think there's probably a chance you could go back further.
Yeah, but if you were at Camp Randall that day,
right?
The dejection, like BYU had a little bit, but it was hot that time in 2018. I've been going to Camp Randall since 2005. It was quiet. It felt like I was at a freaking funeral. Braylon Allen had 2 yards rushing. Like it felt like a funeral, brother.
I mean, as everyone has said, like that's the day where Wisconsin couldn't do what Wisconsin has always been able to do. And Illinois did to Wisconsin what Wisconsin has always been able to do to other teams. We're not breaking any new ground here, but yeah, that's what it is. Okay, let's get to the last game of the year, which is can Luke Fickell return the axe to Madison, Wisconsin? 3 people in here picked Wisconsin to win this game, and I did not. And we've reached the show and tell portion of the show. I care about Wisconsin winning this game as much as I can as like a person who covers the team and like thinks this is the coolest rivalry in college football. I have the replica slab of bacon, which I would love to flip over onto its other side. All right, I just knocked over a bunch of shit. And I have the replica Paul Bunyan's axe, which I would love to flip over to its other side on the bookshelf. Until they win against the Minnesota Golden Gophers, something that has not happened in almost 3 years. I will not be flipping these things over on my bookshelf. And I don't know. Anybody think I'm crazy for saying they don't do it again? Peach gets a 3rd win in a row.
You're definitely not crazy. I mean, I think that.
Well, let's not go that far.
I mean, logically speaking, I think that your head is in a right place. I'll never be able to, put in writing anywhere that I believe that we will lose to the Minnesota Gophers. I don't know if any of y'all remember a couple of years back when when Wisconsin beat Minnesota and reclaimed the axe. Cooper did an entire episode with an actual axe on his shoulder. I don't think you're crazy. I think that ultimately I say that, like, I know that I'll probably get some blowback for this, but like, I just think objectively it is true at this point. Minnesota's program is in a better place than Wisconsin's. Until we show differently. And as much as I don't want to believe that, or I hate even saying that out loud, like Wisconsin has to win that game. And if it comes down to bowl eligibility again, like it did a year ago, if we see the half-hearted, piss poor effort that just made me fucking embarrassed to live in the state of Wisconsin again, man, I don't know, because that was the day after my youngest was born, and I sat there in the hospital. I was like, you're gonna watch your first football game today, and it's gonna be against the Minnesota Gophers, and you're gonna get to watch something special. And boy, was I a fucking liar on day one. I was a liar on day one.
They almost had to take you to the opposite wing of the hospital after that game.
They're about to have to commit me to the psych ward. I was in a dark place.
Oh man, you got it.
I was in a dark place. No, Ken, I don't think you're crazy.
Would anybody like to guess the last time Minnesota won a third consecutive game against Wisconsin?
I'd probably say one of the pre-segregation national championship seasons. That all they claim. They claim all those, from 1920.
It's not that far back.
Early 90s?
You're a little bit ahead. It's 87 was the last time Minnesota won 3 in a row. That was the fourth of 4 in a row that Minnesota.
Then I was born that year, and then we said no mas.
If the devil's listening, I'll sell my fucking soul to prevent that from happening.
Look,
I just don't think there's any other option. Like if he hear me out. So I didn't have the heart to give us a 4-8 season. Spoiler alert: I went 5-7. I didn't have the heart to do it. I had to give him Washington, because if I didn't give him Washington or Minnesota, we're looking at 3-9. We're looking at a pretty miserable fall. So I gave him Washington, but I gave him Minnesota because, like you were talking about, Dillon, like if the half-ass piss poor effort to get to a bowl game, like we got a lot of smart fellas on the team, and if you even want to get APR help, you got to get to 5. So if they're at 4 and they can't even get to 5 to have a chance, I don't want to hear about 2026 because I'm already starting the kettle. I'm warming that seat up real quick.
My thing is, like, I guess it's twofold. I don't think it's insane to pick this team to finish 1-7 because this was a team that was a win away from
9 games, Ked. You got to do math here. 1-7? Don't they play 9 Big Ten conference games?
Yeah, I mean 1-7 to close.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant Big Ten conference. I was like, even my math
no.
knows that's not 9.
I mean, I don't think it's nuts to say they finished 1-7 to close the year because I saw this team finish 0-5 to close the year 1 year ago. I've seen Luke Fickell lose to Minnesota twice in 2 goes. I've seen Wisconsin football lose to Iowa twice in 2 goes. I've seen Wisconsin win 1 of 10 attempts in games in which they were underdogs, and the 1 was on the road against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, which is like the weirdest one-off of all time. And where are we in the universe where Wisconsin football is a statistical underdog against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights? Like, I just can't rule any more lows out because every time we get on the mic, we get on the internet and write, we get on whatever and say Wisconsin football has hit rock bottom. Since October 1st, 2022, we have seen them dig lower.
Honestly, I think that the crowning achievement of the Luke Fickell era was winning the Axe's first year. I think that is our most meaningful win that he's had. I think beyond that, it might be.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I misspoke.
I think that it may, if not Minnesota, it may be Rutgers on the road.
But that's crazy. That's crazy. Like, especially, like, pair that. The most successful win maybe being the 1 underdog win on the road at Rutgers. We're talking about what would happen if they lose to Maryland. The first time Wisconsin football ever played Maryland in 2014, they won like 59-0.
That's playing
not that long ago.
Rutgers used to mean is that our 4-string running back would run for 65 yards.
Those were easy dubs, baby.
408 against Nebraska.
Hey, Ked, can I interest you, since you brought up statistics, can I interest you in some numbers?
I
was doing a little. So I'm going to tell you some numbers, and you tell me what these are. So 5, 3, 7, 13, 7, 17, 17, and 15. Those would be. Go ahead.
I was gonna say like the points Wisconsin has scored in Big Ten games last season, but 15 is a weird number.
Nope, that is the 4-star players on the rosters not named: Alabama, Ohio State, Oregon, and Michigan. The highest number there was 17 on Maryland and 17 on Washington. Do you know how many 4-star players are on Wisconsin? 26 was your guess. You are correct. I don't want to hear about talent. I don't want to hear about statistical underdogs. You have more talent than everybody but those 4 big dogs. It's not talent. I don't want to hear about schedule. I don't want to hear about talent.
I didn't say talent. Talent
No,
aside,
I'm just saying in
they
general.
are like talent aside, they are statistical underdogs in 8 games this year.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're statistical not underdogs with talent.
I get it. I am.
So when you're saying finish 1-7, if you finish 1-7,
with you, like in the talent wins out to a certain degree, and I think probably where I think Wisconsin got too much benefit of the doubt. Like there is, like the statistic that Wisconsin has won 1 game as an underdog since 2018, and that Rutgers game is the one thing, is probably because the books inflated Wisconsin's power ranking for a really long time. I think we are probably at the point where Wisconsin's power ranking has deflated maybe too much, not to anybody's fault, but just I think it is probably a slight undervalue. Right. The market, given the fact that they have not had their preferred quarterback the last 2 seasons. And yeah, Dillon can say they've needed significant starting time from blah, 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 like the number of however many seasons. And like, yeah, that's true. In college football, you need a competent backup quarterback. Unfortunately, Braden Locke has not been that. But I am so far into the I will believe it when I see it mode, maybe to a fault, that I just refuse to pick them to win a game in which, by the numbers, they should lose. Even if it is by less than a point at home to Illinois, even if it is by less than a point on the road at Minnesota, even if it is by less than a point at home against the Iowa Hawkeyes. Like I can't until they see it. If they go out and they beat Iowa, then I will probably flip my script and say they are going to beat Illinois and Minnesota and like make a bowl game with room to spare. Like, well,
don't they say you get 3 points at home? So when you're saying that they're 1 point underdogs, isn't that even more?
No. So SP Plus, Bill Connolly calls it 2.5, which is baked into these numbers that I have been reciting.
Okay, I was just thinking, I was like -1 at home. Underdog, like to me,
no,
you should get
before the 2.5 point edge, they are a 3 point underdog to Illinois on a neutral.
Oof.
Yep.
No Kukui.
Or however.
It's going to be crazy when they win 4 straight to end of the year and like win 7.
Jay's gonna have to do a solo show, taking his victory lap for an hour.
We're gonna be here eating crow when they go undefeated in October. That is for sure.
Yeah, you get that solo show is yours, brother. you earned that shit.
Let me cook.
The consensus record is 5-7, but Dillon wants to be complicated and say that they get to a bowl game, even though he can only tell me there are 5 wins on the schedule.
Yeah, that's a bullshit answer on my part. I believe there's enough there to make that bowl, but I can't tell you how it happens. I can't. I can tell you how they get close, but I can't tell you how it happens.
Gotta make sure you're playing school.
In the world where they are less than a point underdog to 3 different teams, 2 of them at home and one of them like at Minnesota, which doesn't really have a real home field advantage in my personal experience of attending that game, I think they probably get one of those. And so even though I picked them to go 4-8, I think they probably go 5-7. I don't feel very confident that they are above that. Meanwhile, Jason thinks they're going to win 7 games. And,
yeah, maybe
8. And then never lose again.
Yeah, maybe.
Optimist Chardonnay Jay.
Hard to tell.
And after we win in Tuscaloosa, we fucking come back here and the conversation changes drastically.
We have to burn the tapes. Burn this episode.
Oh yeah, this could be deleted off YouTube.
This would be the missing episode. What happened to it?
If they beat Alabama, like, I don't even know that I'd be convinced that my feelings would change.
I'm kind of there too, because I'll be like, "Oh, they're gonna ride high and then lose 8 to end the season."
They're gonna go 4-8, like you said, with wins at Alabama, at Oregon, at home against Ohio State.
They're undefeated in October and winless the rest of the year.
Hey, at least that 28% would go up.
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody have closing thoughts before we get out of here? As we think Wisconsin goes, as a consensus, Wisconsin goes 5-7. Wisconsin misses a bowl game 2 years in a row for the first time, I believe, in my lifetime.
Yeah, I believe 1991 is what I saw on PFF channel when they were breaking down Wisconsin. 1991, 1992.
I was still swimming in my dad's ball sack that year.
Good to know. How
would not reflect well on Wisconsin.
Yeah. If the season goes as let's leave Jason aside. Well, actually, no. Let's do this. Let's be positive and uplifting. Dillon, Ryan, either one of you. If the season goes as Jason believes it to go, which is that they beat Iowa and they beat Indiana, which means that they go 7-5 with losses to Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon. Yeah. How do you feel? Do you feel confident going into a year 2026, which has a schedule that I think at that point, most people would be chalking in Wisconsin as a college football playoff contender?
I certainly would. I mean, to me, if that's the outcome you get to me, that proves that there is some form of an advantage on the coaching side of things. And that's where I have felt for a while that Wisconsin has really fallen short. I when Luke Fickell was hired, I thought that he may represent that. And I do not feel that way. I feel like I've really settled on him that being a strong program builder, but not a head coach that gives you any kind of advantage on the sideline. And so then that person needs to surround himself with quality coaches, which Phil Longo didn't prove to be for Wisconsin. Jeff Grimes represents a new crack at that. And I think that Mike Tressel is a below average Big Ten defensive coordinator. And if they end up at 7-5, to me, that tells me that my evaluations of those are not totally accurate, and that they did have some form of an advantage by way of coaching. Because I think that there is enough talent here to squeeze 7 games out.
Ryan, I think you've been as critical as the rest of us, but if Wisconsin goes 7-5, your thoughts?
I kind of look at it as in tiers, because we've always had on this, and I wish Coop was here for this because he loves when I say expectations. I feel like at Wisconsin,
without that word,
I was going to say expectations, they got to me.
I was going to do cascading failures, but we still got time for Kedrick to use it. But I feel like the standard at Wisconsin, I don't care what your schedule is. This is the Big Ten schedule, man. Figure it out. It's year 3. Most teams at real programs that have serious aspirations in year 3, you're taking off or you're packing up. Like, it's kind of is what it is. I kind of look at it like 8 wins, and I'm really excited on what we can build on, assuming that the 4 are the big ones that you lose, and you're just like, we're close. We beat some, because in that scenario, Indiana and Illinois are likely ranked. Iowa could be ranked. That means you're improving your 28% against ranked teams. 3 and 4 in ranked matchups. Playing devil's advocate, I would feel excited going into 2026. Although it could be a different show, but we got to have a chat sometime about 2026, because this idea that 2026 is somehow going to be a lot easier than 2025, I think, is a fool's errand. I mean, you're looking at Notre Dame, Pittsburgh, USC, UCLA, away at Penn State, away at UCLA, away at Nebraska, away at Iowa. Like, is it easier? Yeah, you don't have to go to Bama. You don't have to go to Oregon. But it's not like you're going back to a Big Ten West schedule. Like, UCLA's got Nico Iamaleava. Like, he'll probably still be there if he doesn't hit the draft now. USC always has a quarterback. At Penn State, Iowa's Notre Dame on a neutral field versus Pittsburgh, like an ACC decent team. Like, that's not just a layup non-con. So this idea of like rolling into 2026, like, I'm not worried about 2026. Win 8 games. Have us worry about that when we get to 8. 7 or 6, I'm sure we tripped up somewhere. Anything under 6, I'm reevaluating if the decision in 2022 was the right one.
Let me very unfairly close this episode with a simple yes or no roundtable question, because Ryan brought up Pittsburgh. When Wisconsin opens the season in 2027 on the Irish shores of Dublin, against the Pittsburgh Panthers. Will Luke Fickell be on the sideline? Dillon Graff, yes or no?
No.
Jason?
Yes.
Ryan?
Ryan's
Yes.
deep sigh is more my answer.
I think yes, because I think he's getting 2026 no matter what, and I think they'll do okay in 2026. But golly, you hang a 5-7 burger and then miss out on the playoff. What do I think? You know what? I'll buy into the villain arc. I'll say no. I changed my mind. No, he would not be on the sideline in 2027.
Convinced yourself in 10 seconds.
Well, I started looking, brother. I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at versus Notre Dame, Lambeau Field versus Pittsburgh. Those are two toss-ups. Even if who's the quarterback, brother? It's not going to be Billy Edwards. It's either going to be a transfer or a kid that we're talking about can't work hard enough that his coach has to call him out in the media. Okay, cool. That sounds exciting. And then you have home games against Michigan State, who's rebuilding, who has a decent coach. Rutgers is always tough, even though we somehow win. Minnesota, USC, who's Jordan Maieva's probably going to be a senior. At Iowa, at Nebraska, at Penn State, lay up at Purdue, and UCLA. Brother, if you go 6-6, 7-5 in 2026, I mean, that's probably reasonable. And I don't think if you go 5-7 now, you have to go 9-3 just to be 500 through 4 years. Oh God, I'm gonna say no for 2027.
I am also going to say no.
Haters.
I want you to be right, Jay. I generally live my life very glass half full, and I feel like this program, this football team has really made me look like a liar when I say that.
I am pretty actively going against my gut feeling because I think I generally am more willing to give more leash to coaches than I think is reality. So my gut feeling is yes, but I'm kind of going against the I'm not trying to walk out of this. I am firmly on the side of no, I don't think so. And that's even me saying no, given my typical take would be, yeah, I think he does get more time given I think general politics of the athletic department. But
that's what I was going to say. I think he and Chris McIntosh are tied together. So I think he stays as long. So unless the chancellor makes a move to get rid of the athletic director, I feel like he's going to get every opportunity. But I just feel like if you go 4 years and you don't have a winning record or competing for championships other than the Meineke wash your dishes bowl, we got to figure something out.
All right. That is going to be all of the big picture talk that we do on this weekly show until at least when are we going to give ourselves the ability to talk big picture again, guys? Do we have to get through? I think we have to get through the Big Ten opener first, at least.
I'll be ready to overreact.
Do we want to?
I'll be ready to overact after Miami, bro. If the best thing on next Thursday, is the bracelets, I'm going to be real loud.
Yeah, I remember how disgusted I was sitting down here talking about Buffalo when this shit popped off. So, yeah, you're right.
Hey, Sean Dolak, first round linebacker, Sean Dolak. What a play!
I'm gonna almost certainly not live up to my word here, but we are going to try to avoid talking big picture until November.
That's probably healthy.
You follow me on Twitter, you're going to get it early, baby.
Listen, you'll get it. We'll get it other places, but this is a strictly ball talking podcast.
We talk balls. Ball.
Correct. All right, let's get the heck out of here because we're at 75 minutes. This has been Talkin Badgers. For Dillon Graff, Ryan Eilers. Dillon Graff, Ryan Eilers, Jason Long. I am Kedrick Stumbris. You can follow the podcast on the website formerly known as Twitter at Talkin Badgers. Watch us on YouTube, youtube.com/@TalkinBadgers. Until we talk to you again next week to preview Miami of Ohio on a college football Thursday on Wisconsin.